late July, and that's like a 3-week meeting. So
Right.
I need to
Right.
go to that. But
Okay.
yeah, it would be great to connect.
Yeah, so you need to plan in a way so that you can at least spend half of day
Oh
at.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, yeah. We'll plan it accordingly. Definitely, I'll allocate some more time to
Yeah, yeah,
visit.
perfectly all right. So we will wait for I think 5 more minutes, 5 more minutes, and then we will begin with the session.
Great. Are you mostly based in Delhi?
Yes, Delhi, Delhi only. See, our university is about 35 minutes away from the international airport.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's on highway only and very good connectivity with the international airport and of course Delhi, because although our university falls in Haryana, but
Hmm.
since we are located in Gurgaon, adjacent to New Delhi, so it's a part of the national capital region.
I see. I see. Yeah, that's why I got confused. I think like I was saying Gurgaon and someplace I think I see something Haryana. I'm like, like where exactly uh that
Yeah, so
location?
Gurgaon in Haryana is at the border of Delhi. So
I see. I
we
see.
have a common border, and once you are moving from Delhi to Gurgaon or Gurgaon to Delhi, you can hardly make it whether you are in Delhi or you are in Gurgaon.
Yeah, I see. I see.
So they have become just like twin cities.
I see. Nice. Yeah, I need to spend more time in Delhi. I get to know Mumbai, I think, well enough now, and
Okay,
need to
okay.
spend some
Yes.
time in Delhi.
2 minutes. 2 minutes. है ना? I'll
There are a lot of places in and around Delhi where you can go around, like Taj Mahal is there, Akshardham is
Yeah,
there.
he was last time he visited Taj Mahal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, last time you visited Taj Mahal, है ना? We had a conversation.
Yeah, exactly. And I spent quite a bit of time in India. I spent about a year, and I
Oh,
think it was
that's
a
great.
shame that spending a year in India and not seeing Taj. So last time I corrected that mistake. And
Absolutely, absolutely perfectly all right.
and
Uh,
I you know,
we can begin with, right? And people they'll keep joining, right?
Okay, fine, sir. Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of MET University Gurugram, I, Dr. Fiza Bhateja, Assistant Professor at MET Business School, MET University Gurugram, extend a warm and heartfelt welcome to the day 2 of the International Conference on AI Revolution, Opportunities, Challenges, and the Path Forward. We are honored to host the international speakers session on the theme AI Applications, Opportunities, and Challenges. MET University Haryana, part of the MET Education Group, is among the top universities in India and the only institution in the country and in the second in Asia to receive the LEED Platinum certification. As a multidisciplinary university, MET offers UGC recognized programs at undergraduate, postgraduate, and doctoral levels across diverse fields. MET's vision is to be a world class center of creativity and innovation and to contribute to the progress of humanity through excellence in education, industry, and society relevant research and extension services. Spanning 110 acres, the campus fosters a multicultural environment with students from across India and over 22 countries, promoting diversity and global perspectives. The university emphasizes academic excellence, integrating education with human values, fostering interdisciplinary research, and developing innovative products and systems in a dynamic learning environment. It is my great privilege and honor to extend a heartfelt thanks to the visionary leaders of Amity University, Dr. Ashok K. Chauhan, our esteemed founder, president, Dr. Aseem Chauhan, our esteemed chancellor, our honorable vice chancellor, sir, Professor P.B. Sharma, and esteemed academician and visionary leader, our professor, Dr. Vikas Madhukar, sir, Pro Vice Chancellor, whose unwavering guidance has been the driving force behind this momentous international conference on AI revolution, opportunities, challenges, and the path forward. Today, we have gathered to explore the fascinating world of artificial intelligence and its far-reaching impact on a multitude of sectors. From education and healthcare to business management and ethical considerations, AI continues to reshape the way we live, work, and innovate. This conference serves as a platform for scholars, researchers, industry experts, and enthusiasts from around the globe to exchange ideas, share knowledge, and discuss the challenges and opportunities that come with the rapid evolution of AI technologies. We are truly fortunate to have with us some of the most distinguished international speakers, renowned experts who have made their remarkable contributions to the field of AI and its applications. Now, I would like to invite our esteemed and honorable chairperson of the conference, Professor Dr. Vikas Madhukar, sir, Pro Vice Chancellor of Amity University, Gurugram, whose unwavering guidance and visionary leadership continue to strengthen our collective resolve. With over 25 years of experience in teaching, research, training, and consultancy, Dr. Madhukar has made remarkable contributions to academia and industry alike. He has successfully guided 15 PhD scholars and published over 80 research papers, authored 5 books on strategy and management, and serves as the editor-in-chief of the Amity Management Analyst Journal. In addition to his role of Pro Vice Chancellor at Amity University, Gurugram, he has also served as the Dean of the Faculty of Management Studies and Director of Amity Business School. Dr. Madhukar is also recognized as Mentor for Change by Niti Aayog under the Atal Innovation Mission and is a guide and resource person for various public and private organizations. Sir, we are honored to have you. Please welcome you to address the gathering.
Thank you very much. Very good morning to all present here. On behalf of Amity University, Amity Business School, on behalf of our dynamic, charismatic leader, Honorable Chancellor Dr. Aseem Chauhan, sir, I am delighted to extend a very warm welcome to our resource person, Professor Dr. Alp Sungu from Wharton School, University of Pennsylvania, my own colleague from Amity Business School and Amity University, Haryana, and other Amity universities, the delegates, participants, students, and research scholars. The Dr. Fiza has already given a brief about the preamble of this conference, why this conference has been organized. And I truly feel that the conduct of this conference is not just timely, but it is essential, keeping in mind the way artificial intelligence is evolving. We find the great opportunities of advances in artificial intelligence, but simultaneously, as highlighted by the master of ceremony, that we look forward for many opportunity, but simultaneously there are many challenges also. So it was felt that it is the need of the hour that all important stakeholders, they join together on a platform and discuss about the way out to find out, to chart out a way forward, ensuring that AI evolution benefit all of humanity and contribute to the nation building, not only in India, but of course, across the globe. So the conference has been planned, and I'm thankful to Professor Dr. Alp Sungu, who was associated with this conference since very beginning. The last time, a few months back when I met him. So I had a discussion with him on this conference, and he was very keen to be associated with this conference. And he is in the advisory board of our conference, and we had received very valuable input. And the conference was planned bringing the academician together. We had brought up industry also. Google India is our industry partner. Google, which has worked significantly in foster AI innovation and addressing societal challenges and empowering individual with AI skills. We have also roped in the Industrial Association, the biggest industrial association of India, which is representing the whole of the cellular and electronics sector, the Indian Cellular and Electronic Association. And when I discussed the agenda with the chairman of Indian Cellular Association, Mr. Pankaj Mohindru, he was also keen to associate. And then the conference was planned in a way that we wanted to not only invite the academician, but the industry experts, the stalwart from industries, those they have contributed, and of course the industrial body, and also the participation of the government representatives. So yesterday in the inaugural session, we had a speaker across all sectors. We had representation from Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, and they were fruitful discussion. So although we have already released one proceeding of the conference based on the research article which we have received and the shortlisted by the editorial board, but by the end of this conference, we are going to come up with a white paper writing the clear-cut way forward required to be done, and we will share the same with the government also. So at the end of this conference, we aim to achieve several key outcomes, fostering meaningful dialogue between academia and industry, identifying key research area with potential collaboration, and inspiring the next generation of AI innovator. We hope to emerge from this conference with a clear understanding of the opportunities and challenges that lie ahead and a roadmap for responsible and ethical AI development. I will not take more time, but I will once again extend a warm welcome to Professor Sungu. I know India and America, there is difference of time horizon. And while we are sitting in the morning, there is late night probably at around 10:30 or 11 there in Eastern time zone. So, but in spite of all this is the commitment of our Professor Alp Sungu from Wharton, that in spite of this odd timing, he has readily accepted our invitation and to be here to contribute to this conference. So appreciate a lot, Dr. Sungu. And I'm sure that the deliberation which we're going to have in this session will going to add great value and will give a new input to each and everyone whosoever is participating in this conference. And I'm sure that the conference, the session is going to be quite useful and add tremendous value to the outcome of the conference. I wish all the best to the participant, and thank you once again to all.
Thank you so much, sir, for your insightful words. We look forward to an enriching experience filled with engaging discussions, insightful presentations, and strategic collaborations. So our first speaker this morning is Dr. Alp Sungu, an esteemed assistant professor of operations, information and decision at the Wharton School, University of Pennsylvania. Dr. Sungu holds a PhD in management science and operations from London Business School. His research leverages field experiments and data-driven analytics methods to propose innovative solutions for addressing policy questions in undeserved societies. He is deeply committed to studying and advancing technology and enabled interventions to alleviate global poverty. In 2020, Dr. Alp Sungu was awarded with the Wheeler Institute for Business and Development PhD Award, a prestigious recognition of cutting-edge research at the intersection of business and development. We look forward to gain insights from his vast knowledge and expertise. Welcome, sir. Sir, please, that is yours.
Hello, thanks for the invite again. Is my screen shared or should I share it again?
You need to
Please
share
share
it.
again.
Yep, let's do that. Can you all see now?
Yeah, it's fine. You can
Yes.
see this.
Perfect. Thanks very much, Dr. Friese and Dr. for the introduction and for the invites, Dr. Vikas. It's a big pleasure to be here. And I must admit, like I'm thoroughly impressed by how wide and deep you go into this conference. In a lot of parts of the world, especially I think since late 2022 and 23, the sort of the AI hype go to the next level, and I realized a lot of places where you expect people to move fast, where you expect people to researchers, industry folks, to catch up with the upcoming trends, but you are sometimes surprised on how well people catch up with these things. So I'm thoroughly impressed and happy to be a part of this conference initiative, because I truly believe, like, looking at the conference, the way you structure it, the way you vision it, it seems like you are like well ahead of a lot of places. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the implications of how AI can affect potential people's life, and I'm going to particularly talk about a research study that we conducted in an educational institute. As you can see from the title, we say, like, the one sentence summary of the paper is generative AI can harm learning. And we to investigate as we conducted a field study at a high school, and tried to see how using these technologies, how introduction of these technologies affects students' learning outcomes. So broadly speaking, what is it that makes AI sort of different and interesting, and what sort of made life, why it is such a big deal now is, the good thing is we see over and over again across industries, through several studies, generative AI improves productivity. And I believe this is the key reason why there's so much investment, there's so much interest on generative AI. The industrial revolution, based on research studies in economics, has found to be improve productivity by about 12 to 16%. And what we see right now on how Gen AI improves productivity across studies, it varies from like 25 to all the way to 40, 50%. So it really, if the productivity improvement is what really transforms the society and pushes to the next level, this might be the next big thing that really pushes the frontier of the society. So that really makes everyone excited, creates a lot of competition, and also at the same time generates a lot of opportunities for development of societies and countries. Within the learning space, within the educational context, what makes Gen AI unique is personalization. And what I mean by this is, one of the most well-known, well-celebrated results in the education literature is something called mastery learning. And there are a couple components to it, but what really makes things mastery learning unique is going from a traditional classroom environment, from one-to-many teaching. If you have this one-to-one interaction with the student, you improve the student learning outcomes by 2 sigma, meaning 2 standard deviation, essentially, like, substantially. That's one of the most effective treatments that has been identified in the education literature. And because the interaction that you have with the generative AI, and when I say generative AI, you can think about something like ChatGPT, you have this one-on-one conversation, so it can really tailor the education at the level of individual, so that you can enjoy the benefits of this personalized information access. And it's not only within an individual you get a lot of potential improvement on learning outcomes, but also the scalability is tremendous. All you need essentially to be able to access this technology is to have internet connection. And even today, there are about 4 billion people that have access to internet. So these tools are accessible to more than 4 billion people. But when it comes to the dark side, you see a couple of challenges that comes along with the technology. And one is confabulation, or more widely known as hallucination. You put a prompt, you get a response, but it seems like it knows what it says, but it sometimes hallucinates, sometimes comes up with seemingly reasonable but nonsensical answers. And this particular thing, confabulation, is relatively, for the long run, for the long-term development, it can potentially be less of a concern, because when the technology improves, these challenges, these sort of shortcomings of the technology, including bias in AI, can potentially be reduced, although there are big problems now. But what I really want to study or talk about today is how people interact with the technology. It's not that how the technology evolves, but how we perceive and interact with the technology so as to understand its impact on us. And what I want to look at is how students perceive and interact with this technology and how it affects their learning outcomes. And our motivation goes back to the widely celebrated result on productivity. So there are a lot of studies where you show, oh, in a controlled environment, let's give generative AI to one group, let's keep the generative AI absent in the other group, and compare their productivities to see how much technology can improve productivity. But what those studies don't have so far is productivity is a function of both technology and human skills. So how good you code is not only a function of the technology that enables you to write code, but it's also based on your human skills, how good of a coder you are. And even if the technology improves productivity, when you give the technology, people work faster, work more efficiently, work more effectively, within the individual, it is difficult to track how the technology itself affects human skills, and then through that channel affects productivity. So what really made us curious is, yes, we do see those studies where technology improves productivity, but keeping the human skills constant. What happens if technology really hurts human skills? Could it, in the long term, affect the productivity? So in the brutal term, if AI makes us dumb, then in the long run, the productivity improvement that we're enjoying by the enhanced technology that is generative AI may not be as effective as we see today. So that is a long question. That is a research agenda. What I'm going to talk about, the first step to understand is how technology affects human skills. So how, within this paper, we're investigating how generative AI affects human skill development, and we're studying in the context of education. From a policy perspective, it's unclear for educational institutions what to do with this technology. When it first came out, New York City Public Schools banned ChatGPT, and a couple weeks later, they decided it was actually a bad idea, and they sort of revamped the ban. So, governments, researchers, or industry folks have little understanding of what to do with this technology, especially in the context of education. So broadly speaking, what I'm going to talk about today is how does Gen AI affect student learning outcomes, how students interact with this technology, and how students use and perceive this new technology. To do so, we conducted a field experiment at a high school where we have about over 1,000 students, and about 15% of the math lectures we redesigned the curriculum. 4 block sessions, 90-minute long math sessions, were dedicated to our experiment, and each session takes in 3 steps. First, as we know, business as usual, teacher comes to the classroom and for about 30 minutes teaches a new subject or revise an existing subject. Then students are given a set of practice problems on a written paper that is almost like a homework or like an in-class working exercise. And for about 30 minutes, students are going to solve these problems to study for the upcoming exam. And here we have the trial arms. A third, we divide the classrooms into 3 groups. Randomly, a third of the school is assigned to a control group where they get the self-study problems and they prepare for the exam with their books. In the treatment arm, students still get the set of questions, the same set of questions. They still keep their books. But on top of that, we provided each student with a laptop, and we build an interface that is backed by GPT-4, and they can use this technology while they're studying. And I'm going to show you how the interface looks like in the next slide. And in the third arm, it's the same thing as GPT-base, but what we've done is Students still get the exam paper, self-study questions. They still get the books. They still get the laptop. The interface looks pretty much the same, but we did prompt engineering to study some of the potential pitfalls of this technology. So what we've done is we told, this is not what students see, the students don't see this, but what we told ChatGPT is, here is the answer of the question that students are going to solve. So it does not hallucinate. It knows the answer already. We artificially tell GPT to the answer of the question so it knows, so it doesn't make mistakes. And more importantly, perhaps what we told it is, you are a tutor. If student asks you for the answer of this question, do not give away the answer. Tell them, hey, it is a study session. I can't give you the answer, but let's start with, the first step, and let's try to sort of get to the answer together. So we try to sort of block two problems. One is GPT making mistakes, and the other one is students cheating, basically copying, pasting questions and getting the answer for the practice problems. This is where really the action is happening. And eventually we collected all the books and laptops and everything, and we did a closed book, closed notes, closed GPT, pen and paper graded exam in the last 20 minutes. This is how a classroom looks like. Before students arrive, they'll see a laptop, so each student will have a laptop. We build an interface, so each student, if they're in the treatment arm, GPT-based or GPT tutor, if they're in the GPT arm, they have an account, they put their names, they put a password, they get into the platform. These are the questions, exact same questions that they see on the self-study problem set that are written on a piece of paper. They click on one of those questions, the question appears on top. If they're in the GPT tutor arm, we also provide a couple of suggested prompts that could potentially help them write questions that are of more conducive to learning, and they essentially put their prompts and they can interact with the technology. The school age is about 14 to 18 years of age. It's a private college, so parents are typically educated. They are relatively representative of the an average Turkish family. Perhaps importantly, a lot of students do have external private tutorship. Just like India and Turkey is also like university national exam is one big exam that determines basically your future. So a lot of students go to training center, especially if they're of more senior grades. They go to a private center, they take private, tutorship to prepare for the national exam. And what we find is, and this is basically the punchline of the paper, during the practice session, so when you have the technology along with you, having access to a tool like ChatGPT significantly increases students' performance on the practice question. So if you're provided with 5 questions, 5 math questions, those who study with books are performing worse than those who have access to ChatGPT. So essentially, those who have access to ChatGPT got about 60% better grades. And those who study with the GPT tutor, that is the version that knows the answer for the question, got about 120%. So they more than doubled their self-study practice problem performance. And when I say performance, they basically get better grades. It is perhaps not surprising the GPT tutor does better because it knows the answer for the question. Even if it doesn't release the answer, reveal the answer to the students, it knows it, so students can get to the answer using the tool, and they can use the tool to validate their answers. This is almost mirroring what we know from the productivity literature. Give people generative AI, and they will perform better. But the second step, the closed book, closed note exams, reveal something different. What we find is when we take those laptops away and in a very similar set of questions, we give them the exam questions. What we find is those who study with ChatGPT, who did a lot better when they had ChatGPT, when the technology is taken away, did significantly worse in the final exam. So those who are in the GPT-based vanilla arm, the arm that mimics ChatGPT, got about 17% lower exam scores than those who prepare the exam with books. And for those who study with the GPT tutor arm, the arm that does not reveal the answers, they were no significantly better or worse than those who study with books. When we look at the interaction with the technology, we build a data tracking infrastructure in the background. So whenever students interact with this tool, we were recording their interaction. Students per problem were putting about 3 to 5 prompts, depending on the session, on the GPT tutor arm, and about 2 prompts in the GPT base arm. Essentially, that we were able to increase by
husband wife दोनों आए हुए
बेटा भी आया
Is there a
बेटा भी तो
question?
डॉक्टर है ना वहाँ पे वो मैरिड है
Vidhi ma'am, kindly mute yourself. Okay, sorry, sir. You can continue now.
Oh yeah, that's all right. And if there's any question, just feel free to interrupt me. So what we find is those who were in the ChatGPT arm were putting 2 prompts, and those who were in the GPT tutor arm were about like putting roughly about 4 prompts. So just by simple prompt engineering, we were able to double the engagement with the tool, suggesting how prompt engineering can potentially, even like simple design elements, can potentially increase students' engagement with this tool. And perhaps, you know, the burning question is, yes, okay, students who get ChatGPT did significantly worse in the final exam, but why? What made them do significantly worse? To get a sense of this, what we've done is we look at the prompts that students put into the tool, and we analyze those texts, and we cluster them into different problem buckets. And what we find is we divide the problem sets we divide the types of prompts into 4 different buckets. And the 3 most common prompts is basically repeat questions, asking for the answer or asking for help. And the number 1 and 2, repeat questions and asking for the answer, we call them superficial prompts. What do I mean by superficial prompt is they're not directed at learning, but they are prompts that basically using the tool as an answer machine. They just copy paste the question so that they get the answer, or they just simply plainly say, hey, tell me what the answer is. What is the answer for this question? They don't, and we call them superficial because they're not designed to, they're not intended to learn, but they're just intended to get the answer. With this sort of clustering structure, the y-axis here are the share of non-superficial questions. So we find that in the GPT base arm, basically ChatGPT mimicking arm, 75% of the prompts that students put in the tool across the study is superficial questions. So 3 out of 4 prompts were basically saying, give me the answer, what's the answer, or copy pasting the question to get the answer. So if they use the tool, if they just ask for the answer and then they get the answer, ChatGPT solves it for them in the GPT-based arm, they might simply copy paste the answer to the self-study problem session, and they seem to do well, but they might not be internalizing that information. They might not be immersing themselves into the solution, into the methods, into the knowledge that get them from what they don't know and to the answer, but they just like using it as a crutch. In the GPT tutor arm, this rate was about 50%, so it's almost held on how much people sort of using this tool as an answer machine. And it sort of is sensible. We were able to halve the number of non-superficial questions in the GPT tutor arm, because even if you ask for the answer, it just does not give away the answer. And the another way to investigate how, like, whether or not students learn something using the tool, we make use of the mistakes that ChatGPT makes. And the idea is, again, we have 2 sets of questions, right? Like the practice problems and the exam problems. And the way we design those problems is each question in the problem, they both are 5 questions. Each question in the practice problem has a corresponding question in the exam. So if you really know how to solve that particular question, the same trick, the same logic, the same method would be applicable to a problem in the exam. So they're basically total. What we've done is we look at the problems where ChatGPT makes a mistake. And if ChatGPT makes a mistake and you get the wrong answer because you learned the wrong thing, you learned the mistaken solution strategy, we expect you to make the same mistake or a similar mistake in the corresponding exam question. And what we've seen is on those questions where ChatGPT makes mistake, in the practice session, students who are in the ChatGPT arm do significantly worse. This is no surprise because you ask for the answer to ChatGPT and it gives you the wrong answer, so you were unable to, you put the wrong answer, so you were unable to solve the problem. But what is perhaps more informative is, on the corresponding exam problem, you do not make the same mistake. Students in the GPT base arm are significantly worse, but not differentially more so in the questions that ChatGPT makes mistakes. So in other terms, it doesn't matter whether ChatGPT makes a mistake or not. In the corresponding exam questions, student performance is comparable. This is important because when it gives the right answer or wrong answer, if it really affects your exam performance similarly, it might essentially suggest that you didn't really learn when it gives you the correct answer, or you didn't really learn the wrong logic, or you didn't, the mistake did not stick with you when you get the wrong answer. And this again potentially suggests that students using this tool as a crutch, they're copy pasting the answer and not really immersing themselves into the information that is provided by the tool. We did a couple more sort of exploratory analysis. One thing that really matters from a policy perspective is educational equity. How the best and worst performing students are far apart from one another, like backbenchers versus frontbenchers. And what we find is when we look at the dispersion of grades at the classroom level, when you give ChatGPT in the practice sessions, the grade dispersion reduces, meaning the gap between the best and worst performing students is reducing, indicative of increased educational equity. And again, this is similar to what we see in the productivity literature, because those who perform worse benefit from these technologies more than those who are better performers. So it sort of democratizes performance in some sense, but we don't see those effects staying for the exam performance. So essentially, again, low performing students might just like asking for the answer and artificially increasing their practice problem performance, whereas good performing students are already solving these questions. But when it comes to the exam, those who were just artificially increasing their grades were unable to do so in the exam. So the grade dispersion again goes back to the pre-experiment level. We do a similar thing with the previous GPA to look at like the good and bad students. And we see again what we know in the productivity literature, where those who perform better, those who perform, those in the above median GPA arm do not, those are below median GPA benefit from the technology more, essentially referring to this minus 0.77, because low performers are more likely to benefit from this tool, but we don't see this effect in the exam performance. Essentially, again, this might suggest that, you know, if you're below median GPA, you're unable to solve the problem, you're asking for the answer, you're getting the answer, you're copy pasting it, and therefore the gap between the above and below median GPA student shrinks in the practice problem, but then goes back up in the exam performance. And before concluding, I also want to like talk briefly about what is the market perception for this, because at the end of the day, people are the ones who are using these tools. If you force them to use it, and if you find an effect, that's just like happening in a sort of a almost like a laboratory field environment. But what happens in the what do students think about this? So to get a bit of a sense of what they think about this tool is, we ask them 5 questions at the end of each session. How well you think you learn? How well you think you performed in the exam? How long the exam took for you? What was the value of the practice session? And then we also have a time trade-off question that I'm going to talk about in a little bit. And what we find is, despite GPT-based students doing significantly worse, they do not think they learn less than those who study with the book. And perhaps more importantly, despite GPT-based students doing significantly worse and GPT tutor doing not different than the book group, there is a overvaluation of the tool. So GPT-based group don't think they perform worse, and GPT tutor group do think they perform significantly better than the group who study with the books. They also value these sessions, especially in the GPT tutor arm, despite it did not work well in the exam relative to the book arm. They do think these sessions were incredibly useful for them. And the last bit that sort of potentially talk a little bit about the policy discussion is the time trade-off. So at the end of each question, we ask students, if you were to get a session before the exam, how many minutes of exam time were you willing to sacrifice in order to have a session that you do this sort of self-study exercise? And we find that those who are in the GPT-based arm were willing to give away about 25% of the valuable exam time, more than the book group, to have the study session. Despite that this arm hurts their grades, they still are willing to sacrifice valuable exam time to have access to these tools, again suggesting that they enjoy these tools. And perhaps what is more important is GPT tutor arm were even more so enjoying this tool, and they were even more so willing to give away exam time to have access to this technology. And what is important here is valuation of, across all these measures, students in the GPT tutor arm liked their assignments, their experience better than the GPT-based arm. And why this is important is because GPT tutor arm that we develop were no better than books, but it's just a tool that us researchers develop for the sake of an experiment. It is not a multi-billion-dollar company who invest heavily on and developed by a large team. So it's not the best GPT tutor. It can improve. And what matters is GPT-based here mimics ChatGPT essentially, or Cloud, or like the other open source, not open source, but like widely available generative AI tools. And GPT tutor is like somewhat mimicking something like Kamigo. And if students like the GPT tutor better, it might suggest you can never it's unrealistic to think we make ChatGPT, or we turn ChatGPT a tool where it does not give away the answer. But if students like GPT tutor better, it might encourage us to say, hey, why not build another tool, alternative tool, a tool like GPT tutor? Students will like it better. And although there is this answer machine, ChatGPT is lying there, they might prefer to use the GPT tutor, and therefore might potentially not harm their learning or can potentially improve their learning outcome. So that's more or less what's from me. This is an agenda that I'm sort of heavily working on. So we're looking at, what happens to student learning outcomes, where instead of giving this tool to students as a way to prepare for the practice problems, but instead we give them as a tutor itself, or how can we make these technology more useful for teachers? Maybe students are not aligned with their incentives are more aligned with getting a good grade. But what if we provide this tool to teachers and try to help, improve their productivity and hence deliver better education? Can we build a tool for maybe parents, especially for K-12 education, to sort of better track their students' performance or better track their kids' performance? Or how can we make use of these technologies to create an ecosystem so as to multiple stakeholders interacting with one another, and then we sort of create shared value together? I guess that's all from me. And any questions, anything that you want to ask, I would love to. I would love to hear that. Thanks.
Thank you, sir, for sharing such an insightful research on AI in education with us. It was a great session about generative artificial intelligence that can harm learning in a way that productivity is a function of technology and human skills. That was a great learning.
Very, very insightful research done by you. Appreciate a lot. The one question is ChatGPT kills the creativity?
Well, creativity is an interesting question, and I think there is no good answer for this. Because there are papers, there is a paper written by one of my senior colleagues, actually, Christian Tervish, where they give these tools for innovation in innovation competitions, and they find that those who do get access to Gen AI comes up with more creative ideas relative to those who do not prepare their idea pitches with ChatGPT. But in the long run, I think what sort of moves the societies to the next generation are people in the tail, right? If I don't write a story well, if my story writing ability is hurt, it doesn't really matter for the society. But if Charles Dickens becomes a worse writer, then it really hurts where the literature goes. And I think we really need to, same thing with science. Like if it makes an average person relatively dumber, it may not be a big problem. But if it makes like Albert Einstein dumber, then okay, maybe we're like unable to innovate and unable to create value. And I haven't seen much work on like how it really affects the people at the edge of the society pushing the frontiers. But going back to the creativity, I think there's some evidence that it might in fact foster creativity.
Right, because in yesterday, one of the session, there was quite a discussion on this. The students have asked this question to one of the panelists that how does the creativity and AI are related to each other and how does it impact? But I think you have perfectly given a good answer. I mean, there is no best answer. And of course, what you have said is, I agree to that. So great, Professor Sungu. If there is any question, one quick question from the participants, we can take one quick question.
So can I? Hi,
Sir?
how are you?
Sir, I have a question, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, can I ask a small
Yes,
question?
sure, sir. You can go first
Okay.
answer.
See, I don't think that it will spoil our the creativity and then thinking process, but it has two advantages. One is time saving. Everybody has to accept it. Another one is it will help our creativity, not killing the creativity activity, because these two are two different processes. Utilizing the already available ChatGPT is one thing, and then our creating thinking is the second part, the another part entirely. And that will improve our creativity also. Say, for example, some unknown question has come, which we do not know. I do not know any answer for that. It will help me at least to trigger my thinking process. That's my opinion about the ChatGPT.
Yeah, your perspective, Professor Devra, is more related with the kind of question you are asking, right? The questions are important in this, right?
Because
So
my
if you are not asking many questions to ChatGPT, right, you are not going to get, the creative thing from the application, right? So asking question is important, but because the prompt is important, but then the answer you are getting and the next question you are asking to reach to the level of your imagination, what you intend to achieve from your prompt from the chat GPT.
What actually I want to tell, it will not 100% kill the creativity. That's what I want to.
Of course, that's
emphasize.
what I am
Yeah,
supplementing,
yeah,
that the question is important. What do you say, Professor Sungu?
Absolutely. I mean, even for learning, I think it's all about like what you there's a thing called like garbage in, garbage out in machine learning. If you have bad data, you have like bad predictive models. And I think similar thing with prompts. When I want to learn something, if I'm like doing research and want to sort of like use a statistical method that I don't know at that point, I use ChatGPT to learn it. So it really is about how you use it. If that is and that's why we were like doing this study for tutors, because in a follow-up experiment, what we've done is instead of giving them the questions where they can get the answers, we tell them, hey, here's what you need to learn. There's going to be an exam in 30 minutes. Those are the things that I want you to learn. In that moment, there is no like answer machine environment, and they have to use it to learn somehow. Otherwise, they're going to fail in the exam. And in that study, what like it's not finalized yet, but what we're kind of starting to see from the data is at least they're doing like relatively better. So it really, I think, like for educational institutions or like even for creativity, it really is about what your motivation is. And if the students or your employees' motivation is not aligned, then you need to create the right incentive structure, right ecosystem, so that they use the tool in a way that is aligned with the goal that you are targeting.
Thank
Yeah,
you. Thank you.
perfectly, all right. Yeah, nice. Very, very impressive, Professor Sungu, and thank you so much. We have other speaker also. So, Dr. Fija, you can carry on, and Dr. Sungu, if you have a time, you can be in the session.
I will try to. I have another call in a little bit, but I'll stay as long as I can.
You decide. It is as per your convenience and choice, right?
Thanks.
So,
Thanks
Thank
again
you
for
once
inviting.
again.
And anyone wants to also like have a follow-up question, I'm putting my email here. Feel free to drop me an email if you have a question about the paper. If you want to talk about something, I'm more than happy to.
right, great help. Great.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Sir,
Thank you.
I had a question, sir. Can I just follow up before?
Yeah, be quick.
Yes, sir. So, good morning, sir. So my question is that your research was mostly based on ChatGPT and its usage around the students. But the last evening, I had a discussion with one of my friends in the evening hours that how XGOC, which is released recently in India, we found that the responses from both the GPTs were quite different. So, can we see in near future that the part of the world which is using different AIs have a different growth of education because the base is different for each of them?
Well, I mean, their performance are different, and it's hard to extrapolate what would happen if you use a different model. But the quick answer to your question is, I think what we see here is like in the human AI interaction, it's not about what AI does. Like a better version of ChatGPT, more advanced version, will just become a better answer machine. But here, what we sort of seeing is how students use the technology. So as long as they're just like trying to perceive the tool as an answer machine, and the AI is good enough to give away the answers, I would imagine the effects might gonna be similar.
May I add something to this discussion for this question by Mr. Shakti Singh?
Yes, sir. Sure, sir.
Mr. Shakti Singh, first of all, it's a very good question, but let me give you some bit more technical answer. But before I answer this question, I would like to tell you that there was a video by Mr. Dhruv Rathi, which is a very important YouTuber, and he has already told about the Godi media that how this Grok AI is actually giving the correct answers and giving the, you can say, the answers to all the misconceptions of our country with regard to the politics of BJP and Congress government. So it is my request to you that first of all, go to that video and check the answer. Now, let me be very open with you. If you talk about Chat GPT, if you talk about Gemini, every model is being responsible as per its training and the responsibility that how it is giving the answer. Now, if you talk about ChatGPT, Gemini, these are being tuned by you can say OpenAI and Google respectively, that they will give you the answer more professionally. But if you talk about Grok is by that is Elon Musk, and Elon Musk has actually tuned this model to give you some humor. And if you add some humor, you can see that Grok AI is right now the only GPT model that is actually giving the answer like a real human being. Like suppose you're talking to me, you will feel that you are talking to a Chat GPT or Grok like that. So it also depends. Remember, the GPT model, it depends on three things today: that what is the level of outcome and how it is being tuned to answer. Number two, how ethical and responsible this this GPT model is being tuned in order to give you the responsibility and the accuracy of information. So that's the reason even today, let me tell you, it's a disclaimer by Google, by Microsoft, by every company, that still we are refining the models, and still the model is in the range, in the high range of 96 to 98% as of today, as of March 2024 or 2025, in order to get the full information. So within 2 years, when these models will be fully trained, and when this tuning and the generation of tokens with, of course, if you talk about the NVIDIA DGX, which they have launched yesterday with the GTC session, when these all cluster-based computers and this generation will be coupled together with, of course, with the advancement of minimum 126 qubit of quantum computer, then you can accept that, of course, the GPT models will be giving you the answers that are accurate more than 87.23%. Now, that's my final verdict answer for you. So it depends on every other models that how they are giving the answers. But of course, I will be giving my lecture on AI agents, in which I will be answering all these questions and of course all the misconceptions that is happening. But you can ask me many other questions after my lecture. So that's my answer to you. Watch the things. In fact, you will be shocked to know that, if I'm sorry to say, whatever the misconceptions are being created by Godi media, whatever the misconceptions are created by the existing BJP government, in fact, Grok is actually giving all the answers, that what are the misconceptions in politics as of 2025, and what the people are misleading with their Twitter and other statements, and what the real information is all about. In fact, I am actually doing some research about the Kashmir issue, about the RSS and all those things. In fact, many other misconceptions that was having with me with regard to pre-independence, with some history books, these are all being cleared. In fact, my mother was a political science student. In fact, she told me that some facts that she has written, that she has learned in MPhil and MA political science, they were all bullshit and of course bullish. Now they are getting the real answers. Now this is all depending that how this information is being illustrative, descriptive, intuitive, intelligent, and of course modified as per the tokens that is being given to you. That's my answer.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah,
Thank you.
right, Professor Anand. Thank you. Thank you for your kind input, and it's great to know.
In fact, I would like to add one thing to the answer of Mr. Alp Sungu with regard to creativity. Now, creativity is the other name of intuitiveness and inventiveness. Now, these are the two words. Now, remember, suppose, sir, I'm a YouTuber and you are a YouTuber, and you want to make some videos with regard to some trending videos, and you don't know, because suppose your channel is doing some videos on PiCoin, but you don't know that what are the trending videos, what the new video should be upcoming. So which means I can create a content, and that content could be okay, but that content should be required, or more things could be done. So if I use ChatGPT that, okay, my channel is about this, and some channels are coming up with this PiCoin videos, how I can tune up my channel and what videos you should recommend so that I can make the content. So remember, I am taking the base that is adding up my knowledge. It is actually creating my misconceptions, and of course it is adding the relevance to my existing thing, intuitiveness, interactivity, and of course intelligentness, which will be enhancing the creativity. Because remember, there is actually a misconception in the whole world that AI is going to kill the human beings. No, it is not going to kill the human beings. It is going to take all those iterative jobs, not development, not the thinking jobs, because of course it is the intelligence that is being generated, and AI is trained on that intelligence. So remember, AI and humans will work together. That's why we have, in fact, don't use ChatGPT as a word. It is basically called software cobot. Now, what we are designing with our research is basically the cyber physical system cobotics. Basically, the word cobotics is actually gone everywhere. This is the cobotics
I
technology.
think can we kind of get to a different topic? Because
Yes.
Yeah, of
you-
course.
I
Actually, I was
think-
giving the answer because I'm very much
Yeah,
interested
no,
with the
I
answer
think-
with regard
I
to
agree,
AI.
I
Yeah.
agree with you, Professor
If you're
Anand.
actually going to give a talk later on,
Yeah.
why don't you keep all your comments to your talk?
Yeah,
as
Yeah, of
well?
course. That was my actually intern because actually when we are conference, I thought that we can have some more panel
Anand,
discussion.
absolutely right. Thank you so much, Professor Anand Iyer, and a very warm welcome to you, Professor Anand Anandalingam. Good to see you again. Thank you very much for sparing
too.
your time and being here for this conversation and contribute to this particular conference. I really extend a very warm welcome to you on behalf of our Honorable Chancellor, Dr. Aseem Chauhan, and on my personal behalf, and also on behalf of the entire Amity University fraternity. Dr. Fija, you can quickly carry on.
Okay, sir. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Alp Singhu, sir, for your valuable time. So now I would like to invite our next distinguished speaker, Professor G. Anand Anandalingam, the Ralph Tyre Professor of Management Science at the Robert Smith School of Business, University of Maryland. Professor Anandalingam earned his PhD from Harvard University. He has held prestigious leadership roles, including service as the Dean of Imperial College Business School from 2013 to 2016 and Dean of the Smith School of Business at Maryland from 2007 to 2013. During his tenure, he successfully raised close to $100 million to establish numerous master's degree programs and championed entrepreneurial education and social innovation. He has also played a pivotal role in promoting women and minorities to academic leadership positions, many of whom have advanced to dean roles at other institutions. An accomplished academic, he has published over 100 papers and 4 books, and his research spans areas such as technology strategy, economic dynamics, and leadership. Today, his topic of deliberation is AI and healthcare, where he will share his insights into artificial intelligence transforming the healthcare landscape. So,
So I'll share my slides as well.
yes, sir.
Okay, you can see those slides, right? Can you see the slides?
Yes, sir, we can see the slide.
Oh, okay.
We can see the
All
slide.
right. I should start by apologizing to Professor Nair to slow his speech because I'm actually in Washington, D.C., and it's 12:30 in the middle of the night, and I'm not getting any younger. And I thought, if this continues, I'll be up all night at this conference. I just can't do that, so I'm sorry. The second thing I want to tell you is that I really enjoyed the previous speaker. His speech was very specific on the research he was doing with ChatGPT. Obviously, there are lots of things I can talk about ChatGPT as well. I should add that I know there was a big discussion about ChatGPT and creativity. I had dinner with a good friend of mine who was also a professor at the University of Pennsylvania in the medical school, and her daughter has learning disability, but is gainfully employed, and she's a teacher in a small school, and at the end of every term, she has to write a review of how her students have done. And because of her learning disability, that's a big challenge for her. But with ChatGPT, she's doing a really good job, right? With ChatGPT's help, she is really doing a really good job. So I know at the creativity end, there could be a debate, but certainly it is a good tool. So having said that, I should also tell you that my talk is going to be at a very high level, very unlike the previous talk that was very much data analysis and regression analysis and those kinds of things at a very micro level. So mine is going to be at a very macro level. And so I'll just talk a little bit about AI and healthcare. It's a huge topic. I mean, it's a huge topic. And just so to get my arms around this topic, I thought what I'll do is start with giving an overview of what AI and machine learning can do in the healthcare industry. Now, much of what I'm going to say is going to be less than what is already going on. Okay, the AI is proliferating the healthcare industry in significant ways. And so here are some of the ways that AI is affecting healthcare. It's certainly playing a supervisory role when doctors make decisions. They can run it by kind of an AI supervisor, and that helps to reduce medical errors and adverse events. One of the biggest impacts of AI in healthcare is in improving the accuracy of diagnosis. Because, I mean, just to kind of give you a quick example, if you have an X-ray of your lungs, thinking that maybe there's a potential for you to have a cancer, most doctors, perhaps most radiologists, perhaps see, depending on the experience, anywhere from about 1,000 to about 10,000 images. But with AI, the AI system can look at hundreds of thousands of images. Its accuracy is only as good as the amount of data it uses for learning and for training. And so on a regular basis, it has been shown that AI can really improve the accuracy of diagnosis, right? So then the question is, if you can do that, can you actually do something more with it? And I'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. It can also, in a regular way, help to discover new medical knowledge. Now, AI is being used a lot now in the United States in the drug discovery process, all the way from trying to examine which molecules have the most, the best chance of leading to cure for something, to actually helping figure out clinical guidelines, best practices, and so on and so forth. So in addition to that, the AI is being used to optimize healthcare processes, especially the patient flow through a hospital. My soon-to-be son-in-law just got a job with a company that essentially will help doctors to speedily report their diagnosis and their recommendations to insurance companies in an accurate way. So as many of you might know, the United States a health system is run by insurance, right? I mean, before, so frequently before you can actually get some procedure done to you, you need to make sure that the insurance is willing to pay for it. And so there's a significant amount of mistakes doctors generally make when they report what needs to be done, not because they don't know what they're doing, but when they're filling the paperwork, and I mean, they're in a hurry to fill the paperwork and they make some mistakes. And so the company, my soon-to-be son-in-law joined, is able to take a conversation the doctor is having with the patient and using AI, figure out exactly what should be reported to the insurance company so that they actually pay correctly and frequently give permission to go through a procedure. All right. So back to some specifics here. AI can be used to improve the accuracy of diagnosis, prognosis, and risk prediction primarily because it can analyze massive quantities of patient care data, electronic health records, health insurance claims, all sorts of things to discover patterns of care which significantly impacts outcomes. So a study was done at Harvard Medical School where they looked at all the factors that go into increasing the risk of heart attacks. So things like, of course, all of us know, things like are you a smoker or not? Do you have cholesterol? What is your age? Of course, gender plays a big role. Ethnicity plays a big role. Turns out that people of Indian origin in the United States are at high risk for heart attacks. And then, of course, what is your body mass? Have you had angina? And so on and so forth. So there are lots and lots of things. And by analyzing all of this data from other patients, right, massive amounts of data, the AI system can pinpoint and tell you what is your risk of a heart attack and what is the reason, the most likely reason that you might get a heart attack, right? So the data that they usually use is genetic data, age, gender, lifestyle, disease profile, emotional state, health records, and so on. Ethnicity as well, I should have put that up. And we'll come up with a plan on trying to reduce the possibility of you getting heart attack. Now, there's a huge industry all over the world, including in India, where people tell you how to live and what to eat and how to exercise and whole variety of things based on folklore, based on some science, based on what's written in some of our religious books and so on. But in this particular case, AI is using hard data over a long period of time to really come up with what you might call personalized medicine, right? It can lead to prediction, diagnosis, and treatment, and therefore it essentially creates a personalized medical intervention for individuals. Now, you might be thinking, okay, so this is a conference in India. The professor, the person who's presenting is Indian, but the United States is mostly the majority are white. What happened? Somebody muted me? Okay, no problem. So the majority are white. And so how does that, doesn't that affect, how this personalized medicine will be practiced? Because maybe the data is not the right data for different people. I will get to that towards the end of my talk to talk about some of the challenges of using AI in diagnosis. All right. So the goal of all of this, of course, is personalized medicine. Give you another example, real life example, not just a conceptual one. One of the best medical schools in the world is Johns Hopkins University, which is in Baltimore, Maryland. And they have a huge project looking at how machine learning can help medicine. And one of their senior research people, her name is Suchi Saria, of Indian origin, of course. And she and her team, they're not doctors. They have doctors advising them. They are basically computer scientists. They've created a machine learning system called DREWS, D-R-E-W-S. You can Google it. And what they're looking at is the ability to detect sepsis. So sepsis is where bacteria enters your body for a variety of reasons. And if it's not treated, if the bacteria is really bad and it is not treated quickly, you're liable to die. Okay. So, for example, 1 hour delay in treatment can lead to about 7 to 8% increase in mortality. So this you can go to the TED Talk. Go to TED Talk. Type in her name, and the title of her talk is "Better Medicine Through Machine Learning." And she will tell you about how this woman entered the hospital just with a leg sore, and the people in the hospital said, "Oh, okay, we've seen leg sores. We'll just clean it up. We'll put some antiseptics." And let you go home. But then when they did all the tests, they found that she had a high temperature, her blood pressure was very low, and various other symptoms. So they decided to keep her in hospital and observe her. And so, unfortunately, they were observing her, cleaning her wound, and the sepsis moved very, very fast through her body, and she was gone. Okay. Now, turns out that if they had used this machine learning system, it could have detected sepsis much, much faster than doctors. And they've done a test of how quickly does this and compared it to doctors. 10,000 trials, and turns out that on average, the computer machine learning system was able to detect sepsis 24 hours before the sepsis shock kicked in, right? And for 2/3 of the patients, the sepsis is detected before any kind of organ dysfunction, right? So this is incredibly good. And the other thing is that this particular system is easy to scale, because these days every hospital has computers everywhere, and all you need is somebody to be able to fire up truths, send in the some of the symptoms, and then immediately tell you what the probability of this person having sepsis is, right? You can easily scale computers, you cannot scale doctors. So this is a very striking example of something real going on. To add to this a personal touch, one of my closest friends is a professor at Boston University. He's a finance professor, and very recently, he got bitten by something, and he noticed that from the bite mark there was a huge red thing going up his leg, and he rushed to hospital. Luckily, there was a machine learning system that kicked in, and in the Harvard Medical School system, and his life was saved. I mean, if he didn't have this system, he would have been in big trouble. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so AI is now being used a lot in drug discovery. So I'm going to go a little fast through the rest of my talk. Obviously, because it can analyze huge amounts of data, it can analyze huge amounts of combinations of molecules, and can figure out which of these molecules have the most potential for leading to new drugs. The AI is being used a lot in predictive modeling. For example, it can predict what structure of a protein or an antibody needs to bind to a specific target at a specific location, right? And so therefore it can predict the pharmacological impact of a drug. It does the drug discovery by doing a lot of virtual screening of millions and billions of compounds, and through that accelerates the drug discovery process. And one of the other things it does is that, as you may well know, many of the drugs we use for certain purposes actually were created for something else, right? We now, the biggest rage right now are these drugs that are being used for losing weight, but those drugs were really created for dealing with diabetes. So what they are using AI now is to look at the different drugs and see whether individual drugs can be repurposed for some other use, perhaps more impactful use, and of course, if you're a pharmaceutical company, with a much more lucrative outcome. All right. There's a lot of AI as I said, is being used for personal drug discovery. It's also being used for de-risking and democratizing the healthcare system, because in countries all around the world where there are insufficient number of doctors or medical professionals, it is really, really helpful to be able to use a computer system to help with diagnosis and drug delivery and a variety of other things, right? So they did a study in Nigeria, and they asked, do you trust an AI system? And they did the same study in the United States, same interface with the people they were talking to. And it turns out that in the United States, today, that is today means 2024, only about 35% of the people said that they would trust an AI system to diagnose them with whatever problems they had. In Nigeria, the percentage was more like 65 to 70%. And the reason is that because there are not enough doctors, they are willing to put their trust in machines, right? So, the health practices get much better because of this. I won't go through this rest of this slide. Let me go to the next slide. We've already spoken about drug discovery and new medical knowledge. Now, there's another area where AI is really being used for optimizing healthcare processes, right? Processes like resource allocation, patient flow, and managing health. So, for example, in the United Kingdom, they are now experimenting with AI-based virtual assistants. Sometimes the AI-based virtual assistant is like a Siri or some thing that will talk to you. But sometimes they actually could well be a robot. So they have allocated a whole bunch of robots that have the ability to talk to you, listen to you, respond to you, and do a variety of things using fired by AI software. And these virtual assistants will remind people to take medication on time, could be a companion, especially for older people. And these are all used actually for senior citizens, companion to alleviate loneliness, sadness, depression. It also helps with people who have autism, that will help because these computers don't get tired. And so the people with autism are very frequently are repetitive about what they say and do. So it helps young people interact with them and get to a better place where they can manage their emotional state. There's a lot of work going on around the world, including in India, on wearable technologies, where using the technology that will sense changes in your heartbeat, changes in your temperature, changes in your pulse, various other things, and an AI engine could kind of diagnose on the run, so to speak, the onset of things like heart attacks, It could also directly alert ambulances and doctors. It'll also keep track of blood pressure, glucose levels, and those kinds of things, and might give advice to the patient or the person on what needs to be done. Right. So this work is a lot of work that's going on in IIT Kanpur on this, at IIT Bombay on this, and also all around the world, Imperial College and so on. Just to finish up a little bit, I am sure I have not done service to the wide variety of software packages out there that are using AI in healthcare. I'm sure all of you have heard of IBM Watson. IBM Watson was created more than 15 years ago, a long time ago actually, and about almost 20 years ago. And in the beginning, they did not know what the best use for it was. And eventually it turned out that it's really, really helpful in the healthcare industry. In South Korea, there is a AI-based system called DLAD, that basically is now being extensively used to analyze chest X-rays, chest radiographs, and whether it's from MRIs, from X-rays, from sonograms, and so on. And there is Google has a huge group on AI healthcare. They have a system called Lina that analyzes histology slides to identify various things, and the biggest use of it has been in metastatic breast cancer, right? So I'm not going through the whole thing. Elon Musk has this company Neuralink. Right now they are not using AI a lot. They are basically dealing with epilepsy and Parkinson's disease, but very soon they'll be using a lot of AI to go from brain waves to telling people, are you going to have epilepsy, or are you a good candidate or a bad candidate, depending on how you want to use the word, for Parkinson's disease, right? All right, so having said that, let me finish up for the next 2 minutes about some of the challenges, right? So one of the big challenges in AI healthcare is who is responsible for health outcome. So if you used AI for diagnosis, for recommending drugs, for taking care of the patient, for taking care of the flow of the patient through a hospital, and something goes wrong, if the health outcome is not what it should be, who is responsible? So this is a big debate. Is it the physician who used this aid? Is it the hospital who decided that they need to enhance their medical practice with AI? Or is it the computer scientist who built the model without having a proper set of data or the proper algorithm, right? Right now, in the United States at least, everything has to be signed off by the physician and the hospital. So the computer scientist is immune to anybody coming after them, right? Who is responsible for errors, right? That's the biggest thing. The other thing is, can you explain why AI recommended what it recommended, right? So should you mandate that AI algorithms used in medicine should have explainability built in? Who owns the data? I mean, this data that they've used is from everybody and all the patients who came before, all the patients who are currently in hospital. Who owns the data? Who should own the data? Now, this reason that people have brought this up is in the US, privacy is a big thing. And the other thing is there a way to actually do peer-reviewed clinical trials? Because in most of medicine, the good practice is to have peer reviews, right? Because you don't ever recommend something unless it's gone through some kind of peer review. So for example, there are lots and lots of new drugs that are coming in for cancer, but every drug has to be reviewed by a panel, and peer reviewed by experts. And it's only after it passes that peer review, it can be used. Now, question is, how do you peer review AI algorithms, right? So that's a big debate that's going on. I spoke to you a little bit about privacy. Accuracy is about this thing I raised earlier. I mean, if you use data primarily from white men, and then you're using that data to diagnose non-white men, whether it's white women or people of different ethnicity, clearly there are problems. So, you know, I know you are following news about our current President Trump saying that diversity is a bad thing, inclusion is a bad thing. But if you don't take that into account when you're collecting the data for use in healthcare, there could be some serious negative outcomes, right? We spoke a little bit about who owns the information. The final thing is about can you really use these high-end technical interventions with patients who do not have the intellectual skills or ability to deal with it, and or who even don't have access to this information, right? So, final thought, I have a podcast. It's called The Future of Humanity. You can get it anywhere you see a podcast. I had two guests, Ritu Agarwal and Gordon Gao. They're both professors at Johns Hopkins. And their view is that AI used in healthcare will be used primarily. The biggest impact will be on prediction of what could happen and prevention of negative medical outcomes and of management of chronic conditions. The limiting factors would be trust in the technology, because we all like doctors to be humans. There's going to be some aversion to using algorithms rather than people's experience. There'll be another limiting factor would be for these algorithms to be continually monitored and updated. There certainly is a need for regulation, although again, Donald Trump in the United States just wrote this executive order saying that all regulations of AI are going to be thrown out because he wants AI, the US, to become a leader in AI. This is in the face of China and the EU having very, very serious thinking about how to manage the flow of AI, especially in healthcare applications. The other thing they said is that humans will have to co-evolve with AI and learn to adapt technologies in healthcare. Otherwise, AI in healthcare may not quite reach the potential positive outcomes that it can. So with that, I'm going to stop. I'm happy to answer questions. Shall I shut down my slides?
Yes, yes. Thank you so much, Professor Anandalingam, sir, for sharing your insights and thought-provoking presentations. We will take questions later on due to time constraint. Now, thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for your valuable insights.
Sure.
Yes. Next, now I would like to invite our next esteemed speaker, Professor Anant Iyer, the Dean and Professor at the School of Management, University of Buffalo, USA. Dr. Iyer holds a PhD in Industrial and Systems Engineering from the Georgia Institute of Technology, an MS in Industrial Engineering and Operations Research from Syracuse University, and a BTech in Mechanical Engineering from IIT Bombay. Since becoming Dean in August 2022, he has led key initiatives in business analytics, climate change, innovation, and social impact. Under his leadership, the school has launched innovative programs like the online MBA and online MS in business analytics. An accomplished scholar in operations and supply chain management, Professor Iyer has authored 5 books and over 50 articles. His work has been supported by prominent institutions like National Science Foundation and the US Coast Guard. Previously, Dr. Iyer served as Senior Associate Dean at Purdue University's Krannert School of Management and held visiting professor roles at Wharton and MIT. Let us get insights into AI in business management from Dr. Iyer. Sir, we are honored to have you with us. Sir, please.
Thank you. Thank you. And just somebody confirm if you can hear me and see my screen.
Yes, sir, you are audible and we can see your screen as well.
Yeah. First, it's wonderful to go after Professor Anandalingam. He's, of course, a respected researcher in the field. I was taking notes while his presentation was going on. So this is what we professors do. We learn from others in the field. I want to give you a slightly more applied view. And the question I sort of pose to myself is, how might I use tools in AI and actually show you examples of what I did last week. And most of what I did with my smartphone. So I'm going to talk briefly about AI opportunities with a particular framework that I'm going to hopefully in the next 15 to 20 minutes explain, which really consists of extracting information, integrating information, analyzing information, and innovation, all using AI-related tools. I'm going to give you examples. My examples will use Google tools, plus please choose your favorite tool. I use Google because I have a Pixel phone, and all of these tools were available at no charge on my phone. And some quick conclusions. So for background, I'm going to give you a very brief background, and I know that several speakers in the past may have expounded it more. The history of AI went from expert systems to data-driven systems to large language models. And the key in these large language models is the word large. And large is several billion pieces of information that the training data sets convert into the actual language. The key things are that AI tools are readily available. I'll show you the tools I used, and I used it on my smartphone. But one thing which we have to be careful about is the idea of hallucination, which is faulty information, which means that in every one of my examples, I'll focus on validating everything that's coming out so you can identify the source material. And if there's anything I would really like to push is this need to validate. The use in business is growing, but it's not, I don't think people have converted it into an expected savings yet. That's really where the opportunity is. One really doesn't have a choice because this is what businesses have to do to be competitive. And so that's really where I'm going to sort of go. So in terms of my framework, I'm going to start with extracting information. So each time I'm going to give you the next one, but talk about what extract means. So the data sources could be reports, videos, websites that we're extracting information from. Similarly, integrating information could come across many different sources. Analyzing data could come from spreadsheets, PDF files, photographs, etc. And innovation comes from learning across many, many, many different players in the industry, integrating ideas and creating new supply chains. So my framework is really, if you take these four words and take the first letter, it is EI and AI. Most of us who teach in business schools always think about how the audience can remember what you did. And so just remember EI, AI. So I'm going to start with one extract information example. And last week, I found out about this opportunity to speak at the Amity conference. So I said, well, what document might I want to learn about? So I said, well, the finance minister in India had just released the Indian government's finance bill. And so here's where the PDF file is available. And I said, what questions would I have about the bill? Now, you could say, read the 188-page bill. Unfortunately, I didn't have the time for it, but I had a bunch of questions. So one of my questions was, what changes in tariffs for imports and exports are there in this bill? Another question was, what changes are there in the treatment of substantial Indian content? And this is actually interesting. When you think about substantial Indian content in any operation, should one take into account the intellectual property associated with that content? And that changes the way you calculate Indian content. What are changes in tax rates? Are there changes in higher education borrowing rates? For those of us who play administrative roles in US business schools, we get students from India, taxes on their borrowing obviously convert into costs for them. Similarly, what benefits can startups get as part of the tax code? So these were some questions I had. I had a much bigger list. I'm going to pick this list. So how could I answer these questions using an AI tool? So I'm going to start with Google's Notebook LM tool. Notebook LM is a tool that every one of you will have access to. All you need is a Gmail account. Open Notebook LM, log in using your Gmail, and you're in business. What did I do? What I did is I pulled in, on the left-hand side, it says add source. I pulled in a copy of the finance bill. Here's where you type questions regarding the bill. Here's a podcast that's created based on this bill automatically. I'm just going to show you how I use that. I pulled in the customs duty rate chart in case there was reference to tariff items that I didn't know what they were. So this is all I did. So 3 panels, source panel, chat panel, and notes and audio, all as part of the Notebook LM2. Now, what did I want to do with this? What I wanted to do was ask a question. Here's my question. So I typed the question, what are changes in import tariffs in the 2025 finance bill? Here's the answer. So Notebook LM gives me the answer. It gives me specific chapters in the bill. Each one of those numbers is, if I click on the number, it tells me where in the bill that particular note or change was recorded. And so it allows me not just to get a summary, but also to validate that these things are true. So if I work for a company or I'm a consultant, literally on my phone, 30 seconds after I type in the question, I get the answer. Now, if you say, why 30 seconds? That was the speed of Wi-Fi of my phone. That's the only delay that happens. Now, you'll notice that in the answer, if you look at this answer, it says, these are the changes in tariff items, and there's a tariff item code. The finance bill does not define these tariff items. However, remember I uploaded the Indian customs tariff items. So I said, what is tariff item 26030000, the first one there? I get an answer. It says tariff item is copper ores and concentrates. The import duty rate has been revised to free. And there's an exemption for the social welfare surcharge. So notice my interaction with the bill. I can ask questions I'm interested in. I can get answers that allow me to confirm that these are there in the bill, and I can get clarification regarding each of these items. This makes my interaction with this a lot more powerful. Of course, India is a wonderful democracy. Each citizen gets to be able to participate in government by delving into this bill. Now, I use this bill as an example, but there are many, many, many such things. You might get a video that you're querying. And I, for example, had access to the Equal Opportunity Commission hearing in Buffalo, which was 5.5-hour video. Again, I didn't have time to listen to the video. I wanted to know about a particular professor's testimony in the video. And I could just go to the video and ask that testimony and get a summary. So this is one example of interaction. A second example is what are incentives provided to startups under the 2025 finance bill? Well, here's an answer that is referenced. So it says that Indian startups, their period for which they got exemption from 3 consecutive years of 100% tax holiday on profits. That amendment, there was April 1st, 2025 was the deadline where it was supposed to end. The finance minister and the government extended it to 2030, and they give you all the details. So I use this as an example of querying large documents and extracting information. Many managers and consultants spend a lot of time doing it. The computer helps you be very clear. I want to bring up one more example. And so I'm hoping that this will work. So let me.
Anand sir, you are not audible.
So what you heard is actually a podcast that was auto-created. The speakers in this podcast were synthetic characters. They were not real people. It's a summary of the bill. So either you can query the bill or you can hear the bill. Okay. So, okay. I just want to be sure you continue to hear me. Can somebody just confirm? Hello?
Yes, sir, audible now. Yes, sir.
Okay. So what I showed you is extracting information. What I now want to show you is integrating information. So again, I'm going to speed up a little bit. This is a private company in Buffalo, which has this, when it's a private company, data regarding the company is distributed across news articles, public reports, YouTube videos of interviews, web links, etc. There isn't a financial filing that you would have like public companies. How do I integrate all this information? So again, I'm going to use the same tool. I put all the information in. I'm now going to query this thing. So one of the queries I said is, give me a timeline for this company's operation. Here's a timeline. From 2009 to forecasted through 2027, all the relevant information of what has happened to this company, where they moved location, what Series C funding they signed up with, who their suppliers and buyers are from, etc., etc. So notice now you get a very quick snapshot regarding the company across time, where the sources of data was spread across many sources of information. I think this is vitally important in learning about companies. I also asked the question regarding government programs that help this company. Again, it tells me the specific loan programs, infrastructure laws, level of funding, state support, federal support, everything. How would this be useful? You can ask questions regarding timeline, funding, technology, supply chain, contracts, everything regarding companies. And by the way, you can do this for any company anywhere in the world. And you can get a lot of very detailed information. So to me, integrating this information is something that the AI tools are very useful in helping with. I'm going to give you another example, and this is a different kind of a tool. Last week, Anand Mahindra made a statement regarding, this city should really be called the Bahubali of business. This city was Morbi, Gujarat. So I read about it in my phone. I said, I don't know much about Morbi, Gujarat. How can I learn about it? So I took Google's deep research tool and just typed in, create a report on the ceramic industry in Morbi, tell me about volumes produced, global market share, ownership, etc., challenges. Out came the result. 4-page summary with a summary of every company, their employment, their turnover, all the details. Every one of these pieces of information is annotated, so I know the source. In this case, Google Deep Research found all the sources, allowed me to validate the sources, and ensure that I can learn about this industry. Incidentally, it is an amazing surprise that this industry in Morbi generates an annual turnover of 50,000 crores, which is $6.6 billion. One city. It has 13% global market share for ceramics. It's something to be proud of, something I didn't know, but I learned about. And I think this is really amazing that you can do this much on the integration side. I'm going to speed up a little bit just in the interest of time. So one of my roles is as a dean to understand what we do. So I took a bunch of data that I had where I knew all the students taking all the classes. My goal is, how can I use this to do analysis? Normally, when you have data, you would use an Excel tool, a statistical tool. I decided to use Gemini, the Google tool. And I just said, create a table, analyze this data, and allow me to understand data regarding students in 2 different courses. Provide me a graph. Boom, here's the result. I can visually analyze the data. I can understand students taking different classes, preferences for classes across students, etc. And this helps me come up with a much better sense of students, their preferences, their capacity, etc. You can translate this into your own domain. Please note that you could be doing this on your phone and getting a lot of very powerful data analysis. And that's one of the things you can do with these tools. I'm going to finally give you one example of Innovate. So in the region where I am, in Buffalo, New York, in Western New York, we just got awarded a project on building semiconductor supply chains. So our goal was to look at all the companies and build an entire supply chain. Dun & Bradstreet estimated close to 40,000 companies. There are 4,010 manufacturing companies and 18,000 ancillary providers. So we got a grant to see how many of these companies can pivot and join a semiconductor supply chain. So what did we do? Notice I told you can learn about companies. We use these tools to come up with an identification of capabilities of every company. 18,000 plus 4,500 is about 22,000 companies. For every company, we have identified their certifications, their equipment, their assets, their materials, etc. We're developing supply chains, which is groups of companies who can produce components or products. And we're trying to create ways for these companies to come together to learn, develop new market opportunities, and build this semiconductor supply chain. The goal in New York is that 25% of US chip production will happen in New York. Many fabrication facilities have already opened: Micron, Global Foundries, Wolfspeed, Intel, which is going to open later, etc. We're building the supply chain in this space. Here's an example of maps we have created of every company in the entire region, details regarding the company, their participation in design, manufacturing, inspection, testing, packaging, and assembly. And this is something which is at a very, very detailed level so that local governments, the state, and the federal government can assist these companies in creating the supply chain. So just as a quick summary, I'm hoping I've given you a glimpse of this extract, integrate, analyze, and innovate framework. Please choose any tool. I used Google, as I told you, because I had access to it through my phone. Ensure that every decision has reliable citations that can be verified, because that way there's a reputational benefit in verifying and confirming the data. The source URLs allows you to update the information. We have a lot of other examples on our website, but the main thing I want you to think about is to use AI as an assistant that helps you be in the driver's seat and use it to do interesting things that we all do. So with that, I'm going to stop. I may have time for a brief question or two. Thank you for the opportunity, and I look forward to engagement. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Iyer, for such an insightful session on AI in business management. So thank you, everyone. Now, ladies and gentlemen, as we conclude this enlightening session, let us take a moment to express our sincere gratitude to our distinguished speakers, Dr. Alp Sungu, Dr. Anand Anandalingam, and Dr. Anant Iyer, for sharing their invaluable knowledge and expertise in this area. I would also like to thank our honorable chairperson, conveners, co-conveners, Office of International Affairs and organizing team for their dedication and efforts. As we move forward, let's keep the spirit of innovation alive, stay curious, and continue to push the boundaries of what's possible with artificial intelligence. Remember, every idea shared here today has the potential to shape the future. Thank you all for your participation and valuable contributions. Have a wonderful day ahead. You all can join in your respective technical sessions. Thank you once again. Thank you, sir. Thank you all. You all can join your respective technical sessions.
Thank you.
एक मिनट